like it is every single week. Today's episode of the Lee Summit Town Hall podcast is brought to the good people by Budget Blinds of Lee Summit.
Budget Blinds!
Jason, can I tell you a little something?
Tell me something.
The future is here.
The future's here. I know the hand motions and the face really make great for podcasts.
It makes for good audio. The future is now, and when I'm talking about the future, when I'm talking about now, I am talking about automation.
Automation. All hail our robot shade overlords.
All hail. Hey, automated shades, they provide a safer environment for your children, for your pets, because of the cordless nature. Look, we all know those cords, they can be a little dangerous. You probably shouldn't have them around your kids.
Right. That's the whole safety thing. They tell you to tie them up and get them up all high. In addition to safety, it can be energy efficient because having those shades programmed to be up and down at the right times allows you to maximize the energy efficiency in your home to use your air conditioner or your furnace a little less.
And we all know if it helps the pocketbook, it helps the world.
That's the way to make environmentalism catch on for everybody, is to make it profitable.
And one final thing, it'll make you cool.
Make it a little bit easier every day. Make your life a little bit safer. Make it a little bit more secure. Go to Budget Blinds.
Tell them Jason and Nick sent you. Jason, are you ready to get some hardware?
I am impressed. Through this, we have not necessarily set ourselves up as a brand of unfettered optimism through the course of this podcast. And yet here you are, coming forth for the forthcoming Chili Fest on October 5th, and you are certain that you and I, the Lee Summit Town Hall chili-making team, is going to win some hardware.
Look, when it comes to food, I'm a legend in my own brain.
It's clear. And see, some of us are coming at it with letter goals. It's like, I just don't want to finish last.
Hey, look, I figure this. Even if we're voted the worst, that's still a win.
That's too. Just playing along. Actually, honestly, just getting to eat the chili and the wings and the salsa. It's a win for everyone.
Hey, Chili Fest, like you said, October 5th, downtown Lee Summit at Bridge Space. Proceeds will benefit Coldwater of Lee Summit. There are several categories. Well, actually 4. There's the competition-style chili, the home-style chili, salsa, and wings. In case you didn't get enough wings at Wings for Water last week,
we're going to have more.
There's more wings at Chili Fest. And look, if you think that you've got what it takes to beat me and Jason, to beat the Link to Lee Summit Town Hall team, there's still room. You can enter. Just go to bridgespace.us/chilifest for more information. And Jason, you know what? If you just want to eat some of the food and judge,
you get to buy a spoon.
You get to buy a spoon for $10 and come in and eat all the foods and judge them.
Hello again, and welcome to Lee Summit Town Hall, a weekly podcast about what you can do to make a difference. I am Jason Norbury, and as always, I am joined by a man who is so excited for Chili Fest that he is actually going to make us practice. It's Nick Parker.
Practice.
Publisher of Link to Lee Summit.
Look, if you want to win, if you want to be the best, you got to practice, Jason. You got to get it right. So this weekend, we are practicing. We're going to get our recipes down.
We are so dedicated to our craft that we are going to take time out of our Friday afternoons. We are going to set up the grill in front of your house. We're going to make food, and we're going to eat it.
Right. Yeah, that's practice.
The dedication that we show to the craft of chili and wing making and salsa making is I am moved. I am moved. This during Constitution Week, and our unofficial sponsor is the Constitution of these United States of America, 232-year-old living document, still working for you, the citizen today. So I'm just saying, in this Constitution Week, our dedication to the craft of eating food that we have cooked, it makes me proud to be an American.
I would proudly stand up.
Can you hear Lee Greenwood singing in the background?
I can.
I just want you to put that out there. So.
All right.
All right. We're going to move out of that particular territory into stuff that's happening around us.
I've got a couple of notes I want us to make before we dig into the episode this week. First, just a reminder, folks, the annual gala to support downtown Lee Summit Main Street is this Thursday night. That's tomorrow at John Knox Pavilion. Look, ticket sales have closed, but I'm sure if you want to go, we will find a way to sell you a ticket. But the annual Piccadilly Gala is tomorrow night at John Knox Pavilion. This is an annual fundraiser for downtown Lee Summit Main Street and all of the work that organization does to support our downtown district. It is really, really awesome. For the past 17 years, it has been a women's event. This year, they've made it co-ed, and it's part of to start off the kickoff of the 30th anniversary celebration for downtown Lee Summit Main Street.
And I have the most important question. Since it is an 80s theme, what are you wearing?
All right, look, I'm not going to say yet. I kind of want it to be a surprise. Should I say?
It's up to you, man.
I'm going to let it out. You know what? I have gone out and I have purchased a shirt for this. I'm rocking a Thomas Magnum look. That's right, Magnum P.I.
Are you going to shave the beard and try to thicken the mustache in the next couple days?
I am.
Oh, I am so excited for
I
that.
am.
I am excited for that.
My mustache will never be as glorious as the Tom Selleck. I mean, let's face it. I mean, icon of the 80s. I will never have it that glorious.
No.
But and I also don't know anybody who's got that Ferrari that can loan me for the night.
That is also a limitation. I'm still debating between something that's actually I can just yank right out of my closet and something a little bit more, I think, closer to what I actually wore back in the late 80s. I'm going to say this, though. I am not going to rock the same hair that I did in 1989 because it just takes too long to grow a fabulous mullet.
That's true.
I'm just saying it. So,
I thought about going for the mullet wig and then just like tight rolling the pants.
Yeah,
but I decided that was too easy.
I also dug around and I could not find an old Def Leppard T-shirt that I could wear with a white T-shirt under it with the sleeves cuffed with the mullet. And then I would have been me in 1989. It would have been fantastic.
Another hint, Mrs. Link to Lee Summit may have just found an MTV shirt.
Oh, that is fantastic. All right, so we're going to be there. I'm going to really, really enjoy. I hope people come a little bit more historically accurate 80s and not quite so much the overabundance of neon, sort of like what people think we wore in the 80s.
Right.
Old farts like us, we were in the 80s. We remember.
We do remember.
And we want to make sure you know.
And after that, we've got some other events coming up in the next several weekends. Following this, the next weekend is Oktoberfest, the Lee Summit Chamber.
Always
a good annual event. It's always a good time. And then the weekend after that,
2 weekends.
2 weekends after that is Summit Art Fair.
Yeah, that's right. So it is a fun time to be in and around the downtown area. Only one of those is actually a downtown thing, so you can come. You can support the chamber. You can support the Summit Art. What do we call them?
It is a Summit Art. That is the
Summit Art
nonprofit.
There we go.
But it's a great event. There are, I think, over 100 different artists that'll have booths selling different art, showing art. The Lee Summit R7 School District always has this really, really, really cool event that they do where the students come in and they make this tape art. They use tape to create these huge. What do I want to call them?
I don't know. Murals?
I was going to say paintings, but murals.
Probably murals. And then you always have the exhibition of the students' art, which I always use as an opportunity to remember how much more talented these kids are than I was at that age. So
by the way,
kudos to them.
That doesn't take much.
No, it does not.
That's a low bar. And these kids are much, much better than that.
Speaking of R7, they have a closed meeting Wednesday night tonight this week. And then next week, they have their regular September board meeting and tax hearing on the 24th. That's the Tuesday night, so that's a different night than usual. So if you're interested in whatever they're going to be doing that night, you need to make sure you set the Tuesday night aside instead of the Thursday night.
Okay, Jason, let's dig into the show this week. Really, there's just one thing we're going to focus on. There's one item on the City Council agenda, and it is happening as we record this. You and I have both already looked at the presentation that's happening, and that is the tax levy. This is something that happens.
You literally, I think, just those two words, I think, put a lot of people asleep.
Right. Well, look.
And I'm here to make it so much more exciting.
Look, here's what we're going to do. One, I'm going to let you get nerdy because I know it's your favorite thing.
It is, and I haven't really been able to dig into something nerdy like this in several weeks.
But two, we're going to try to explain why our listeners should care, because this is one of those kind of repetitive, mundane, seemingly mundane things that happens every year, but it's important. So first off, Jason, tell us a little bit about the presentation that's happening tonight and what it is.
All right. So as we all know, and as we have discussed over a number of years with the budget, the city runs on tax revenues, sales taxes, property taxes, what have you. What we're talking about tonight is setting the levy rates for property taxes in the city of Lee Summit. And so the money that will be generated by property taxes that goes to the city for the operation of the city's budget. They have to every year set a tax rate, essentially, on those pieces of property to accommodate how much money that they give. Essentially, every year it's a balancing act. Their budget says we need about this much money, and they try to have the mill rate in the grounds that will provide the amount of money that's necessary, but not so much extra money that there's something else going on. And so there's one other item on that is that they don't have a complete autonomy in how far they can go. They can't raise the levy rate beyond a certain range in any given year without running afoul of the Hancock Amendment and having to put that raise up to a public vote. And so obviously that also mitigates how far they might want to drop it in any one year so that they maintain flexibility to generate income on a sensible level.
Okay. Stop right there.
All right.
You've already lost 90% of people.
Victory.
Because not everybody loves the nerdiness like you.
That's fine.
Take a second and explain what you mean by that flexibility that the city has as far as raising and lowering.
Right.
What does that do, and why should I, a taxpayer, care?
All right, so just to give you a basic idea. So the city in its budget says that we are going to spend X number of millions of dollars to run the city. And within that, they're going to say we're going to accumulate so much money from sales taxes, we're going to accumulate so much money from use taxes and fees and whatever, and we're going to accumulate so much money through property taxes. And that number is, relatively steady, goes up a little bit, comes down a little bit year on year. As we have had, the city runs a fairly steady ship, as we have said on a number of occasions. And so that number doesn't need to fluctuate wildly in any given year to account for disparities in revenue or expenses. But each year they have to make that determination as to how much they need to raise. And then from that, what the tax rate need to be to make that happen. Does that make sense?
That does. And now here's the question I have for you, because again, I want to both let you be the nerd you are, and I want this to be of value to anyone who's listening. Having looked at the presentation that is being made to the city council tonight, what does that actually mean? What does that presentation mean for the taxpayers of Lee Summit?
Well, I think there's two main things it means. One is, I think there are two things. One is that the actual mill rate or the levy rate that they charge, so the amount you pay in taxes per dollar of value of your house or your car that goes to the city actually comes down a little bit this year from last year. So that's the first thing. So you can count that as a tax cut or what have you. It may be offset or somewhat more than offset by the appreciation in value of your house or the depreciation in value of your car. And so how that washes out in the end, I'm not entirely certain. Then the second piece is that the total amount of money that is being raised by those taxes is actually down, I want to say, right at $2.5 million, a little bit less than $2.5 million from 2018 to 2019, that calendar or that taxing year. So it's adjusted a little bit, and it gets set in that way. So that's either way you look at it, it's a tax break or a tax cut for the people of Lee Summit, and I think it says something about how the city is doing its job.
So what you're saying is, I may pay less to the city in taxes this year.
On the whole, people will pay less. You, the individual, may pay a little bit more or a little bit less because of the value of the stuff that you have. But as a whole, on average, people will pay a little bit less.
Okay, and now we're gonna kind of broaden a little bit, just again to put all of this into context. I want to know, what does this mean going forward? Over the last, let's say, over the last year or so, we have seen the council discuss several things. I'm going to say, for example, raising our wages for city employees, for the police department, for the fire department, for public works.
And for the general employee pool.
And for the general employee pool. We have also just completed a new strategic planning initiative. And so there have been, I won't say maybe a lot of new goals, but re-emphasis on some goals for the city. So what does this presentation mean as far as paying for these things that we're talking about?
I don't think it changes anything from what the city has been saying for a while. There have been a number of times in these conversations about balancing the budget and what have you to raise the possibility of.
Well, I think one thing you just said, though, is it sounds like you just said that they're not going to take in as much money in the next year.
Right, and they may not need to because of what they've done. They may have had some significant savings on personnel turnover. Other things of that nature through the course of the last couple of years, and they may be able to do that. I do believe there was some plan in the budget this year, if I remember correctly, to eat a little bit into the rainy day fund or the reserve fund as a one-time measure as they rebalance that whole process. So that may just simply be that in the math of doing all of that, they don't need to. The real need for additional revenue, whether it be from one of these current sources or from a new source, is coming up in the next 5 years. And nothing we're doing here today really impacts that, nor does it say we don't have to do it.
So what you're saying is when new needs come, they'll be looking at other revenue sources and not this.
Correct. I think so. I mean, it may very well be over the course of the next several years that the mill rate ticks up or it doesn't come down as house values or mostly house values continue to appreciate. There may be some capture of that gain, but as a whole, I still think the city will be exploring new revenue sources at some point here in the next several years. Yes.
Okay, I think that gives kind of a nice summary of what this presentation meant and how it will affect each taxpayer and the taxpayer in general. Because I think when you see these things, sometimes it's hard to actually notice what that means for me, individual, and me, my neighbors. So I think I hope that what we just did was kind of give a nice little explanation of how that in context can work for all of us. We are going to see, I think you're going to see, Jason, they're going to have to find some other sources of revenue, but that discussion will come. We'll see that happen over the next probably year or two at the city council meetings. That will wrap up our discussion for this week. I think we just have one more thing I want to talk about, and that is a reason for people to tune in this Friday. There is a cool event coming up. It's not really an event, actually. It's a public art initiative. And we've seen a few of these start popping up out in Lakewood this Saturday. There will be a new public art piece unveiled in the opening to Lakewood. And then beginning soon, on Friday, you're going to hear about this. There is a new initiative called We Are the Summit. And it's a pretty cool kind of pictorial way for the community to describe what it means to be a part of Lee Summit, what the community means to each of our residents. So tune in Friday with our guest to talk about this initiative. It's going to be really interesting, and I think you're going to like this as we find a way to not only add art to our community, but to talk about how awesome and how great this community is.
Can't wait.
Today's episode of the Lee Summit Town Hall podcast is brought to you by Shred KC. Jason, I just want to take a moment to remind people of a partner podcast in our Fredcast network. the Shred Podcast.
They like to talk about all kinds of things, healthy lifestyle, motivation, fitness tips, form when you're doing your working out, holding yourself accountable. If you want to hear a couple of dummies talk about stuff that they're really unqualified for, I suggest you stick with the Lee Summit Town Hall podcast. But if you want to talk about people who actually know what they're talking about and a really important subject to your life, I think the Shred KC podcast is for you.
It is. They are experts. They know what they're doing, and you know, in their last episode, they talked about, you know, we know this. If you follow the plan, it'll work. Because a lot of their topics are about people like me who are just trying to lose weight and get fit again, but they know what they're talking about, and it's real talk. We're not talking fad diets and stuff. This is real plans and tips to help you get to those goals.
Absolutely. All right. So take an opportunity, go on your favorite podcast feed or app and look for the Shred KC podcast.
You have been listening to Lee Summit Town Hall, a Link to Lee Summit podcast with hosts Nick Parker and Jason Norberry. A proud member of the Fredcast Network, you can subscribe to this podcast on most of your favorite podcast apps and catch us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for all the news, analysis, and conversations on the Lee Summit community. Connect with us on Facebook at Link to Lee Summit or on Twitter at LS Town Hall.